you.
Facebook Live, Zoom on, recording on, PowerPoint up, thumbs up from Cinderella. All right, good afternoon, aloha, amigos and amigas. Once again, it is Agent K, Kaleo Kina here on the Legends of Be Wealthy. I have the privilege and honor of being a guest co-host again for today. And today we will be having a conversation and connection with Janel Loughin. So not Loughin, Loughin. I'm super excited. When you talk to this woman, her personality precedes itself. It just emanates out of the phone. I love her energy. I love her spirit. But even more, she has a lot to share. So here she has a huge business. I know some people that know her and they speak nothing but glowing things. And so I'm excited to not only get to know her myself, but to present her to more people. I believe that people with her spirit, energy, and success, I mean, the world needs to know who she is and she needs to be exposed to them because we can all be better by learning from those that are doing it at the highest level. So without further ado, I'm gonna get into the interview and I'm super excited to share this platform with her. Quick next slide. We do have a couple housekeeping items. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. Cinderella will be on here. She'll be able to let us know when there are questions available. We can ask them. Please don't hesitate to throw them in there. This was an organic and off-the-cuff interview. We want it to be as authentic as possible. Also, if you're watching this in the Facebook world, in the Be a Wealthy Agent Facebook group, please put the questions in the comments. We'll be monitoring that as well. And so I'll take time to see if there are any questions about halfway through the interview. But with that being said, let's rock and roll. So Janel, hello, how are you?
I totally paid you for that intro. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, my Venmo just got the $20, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we've been talking actually like probably last couple months off and on. There are some people in my world that are very intrigued by who you are and what you got going on. And so quickly, can you just give us some background info on you? Like I'd love for them to kind of have some foundation to start from.
Yeah, of course. So 3 minutes or less, I got my real estate license in 2014. I was a stay-at-home mom and I had a baby. I was super bored. And then I quickly realized that I loved it and I was good at it. And then I had a second.
Real estate or having babies?
No, well, I have 2 kids and I was pretty good at the real estate specifically. But then I had my second daughter, so then I had a newborn and a 2-year-old. And then I was primarily I was a solo agent, but I was on my own, selling a lot of houses. And I quickly realized I needed leverage. And around the same time, I realized my marriage was ending. So then I really needed to figure out how to be a mom, the stay-at-home mom, and have a full-time job. So I started a sales team by default, just because it was kind of out of necessity. And last year we went down a little bit in production, but we sold 170 units for 64 million. And that was my primary business for a long time. Also, we have a title company. I own investment properties. I own 2 Airbnbs, and we started our own property management and brokerage last year as well.
Oh, so you have your hands in everything real estate. And so
I do almost. This year I'm aspiring to get into mortgage and hard money lending. And then I feel like we're all set for a while.
Cool. Mortgage, JV type relationship, or actually launching a mortgage company?
JV type relationship.
Okay, cool. And I think I might have missed it. What area do you service?
So I am in a northwest suburb of Philadelphia. So we do all the Philadelphia suburbs. Well, we will go into the city as well, but it's not my favorite.
Gotcha. Philly area. From Philly, or you just happen to be?
No, it's a suburb, but I mean, you can hear the Philly if you get to know me.
I got 2 Philly girls on my personal real estate team, and you guys are definitely cut from a different cloth, but I appreciate you guys so much.
Usually brutally honest. Yeah.
Cool. So let's scale it back and talk a little bit about, so you started as a solo agent. Well, you were a stay-at-home mom and then you decided to get in the real estate.
Correct. Yeah.
Started as a solo agent out of necessity and a lot of life happening, right? You decided you needed leverage and then you really attacked, starting a sales team. At what point did you transition from, I have this sales team, we're getting into production, and then now what you started you said you have a title company, you have Airbnbs, investment properties. Were you always started on the investment side as you grew, or was there a certain point where you started really, keying in on that area?
So I always wanted to. I mean, if I got my license in 2014, back then the market was drastically different. So you could like find a deal on the MLS, but I didn't have any money. And then I knew like my divorce was costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars that I didn't have. So there was more debt, right? So I was probably in the worst financial position of my entire life. And it was 2017. And the story I tell is I got a call. I listed one of my first big listings. It was like a $500,000 house, and this guy called, which is a very high price point for me at that time in this area. And somebody called me on Zillow. They're like, I want to see the house. I ended up showing the guy the house, and he's like, this house is terrible. And he's like, I'm going to flip houses. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started sending him houses where I'm like, this is a good deal. This is a good deal. And he's like, I don't think you understand. Like, I don't want to have to do anything. And he's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to partner. I'm going to put up all the money, and you just handle it. And I was like, okay, I don't feel like there's any downside for me, right? So that's how I got started. We started with one single family that we bought for $68,000 on the MLS in 2017. And him and I got rocking and rolling, and it was a single, a double, a triple, a 24-unit apartment building. And then all of a sudden we were up to just under 50 units. And that's when all the wheels started coming off.
Wow. And so essentially you had a lead that you turned into a relationship, but he was essentially the money. And you found the properties, and that's how you began your investment journey.
Yep. So I found the properties, I found the contractors, I organized everything. I just handled everything. There were properties that we were buying, and at that time, I could not even wrap my head around where I would be like, hey, can we get together $300,000 in 27 days? He's like, yeah, no problem. And it was like that for him, where I'm like, I was not in that world or that space at all at that time. So at that time, that was a huge value to me. So I didn't mind doing all the work. But as I was finding all the properties, organizing all the work, and running my sales team, and being at home every day with the kids, it did not go well. That's when I really started focusing on leverage. And people ask me how I scaled so quickly all the time. And I'm like, it's not like, it was because I had to. Like, I couldn't do it. I physically couldn't do everything all the time.
Man, that's powerful. You had a lot of juggling pieces. The unique thing is Brett Tanner, as you've met, he runs KW Wealth, but he also owns the Be Wealthy Network. His start is very similar to yours. So he talks about how he got into it just investing, but he also had an investor who fronted the money. Brett found all the deals, they went in, and then they split profits 50-50 until there came a point where Brett was like, hey, I am thankful for that opportunity, and yet I can do this now on my own. And then
that is exactly what happened, because I love my money guy. We are still very close to this day. I always say he's the Indian brother that I never wanted, that now I love dearly. But we came to the exact same point, because there were times, and he was involved in a tremendous amount of businesses too. So when I would go to him and say like, hey, we need 300 grand, in 2 weeks, he's like, oh, I'm like out of money. And then I was like, okay, well, by that point, I grew my relationships with hard money lenders and local banks, so I could figure out how to put it together. But then I'm like, you're the money guy. Like that's your position here. So if you're not the money guy, then what are we doing? We had the exact same conversation where I'm like, yo, I love you, but like, what's this look like if we're not in business together anymore?
Gotcha. And so can you discuss, like, what does your portfolio look like today? So you started doing that in 2017, starting acquiring property.
Yep.
What does it look like today overall? Because I heard 24 units, I've heard single, doubles. Like, what does it look like?
Right now, I usually hover around the 130 unit mark, give or take. Like, I buy and sell, and then some of them I own solely by myself. Some of them I have partners. And then some I own with my former director of operations, who's my business partner in a lot of our ventures.
Wow. So you have a myriad of different ownership types in that enormous portfolio.
Yes.
But you hover around 130 units at all times.
Yeah. And I used to be hell bent on like, we got to go, we got to scale, we got to get more, but I'm not going to do that at a cost. Like, I love a deal. Like, so right now, if I will catch myself where we're not interested in 2 units, it's too small. But then when I walk in and it's a killer deal and the cash flow is going to be amazing, I'm like, I got time for this. Like, why wouldn't we?
So cool. I think my coach used to say in college when I played college basketball, like there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. So you just said, I love a deal. So when you say I love a deal, what does a deal mean to you? Like, what are you looking at specifically?
So I feel like that's another loaded question, because sometimes like I have bought properties, and to a lot of people, this doesn't make sense. Like I bought one property in Ocean City, New Jersey. And for years, I've owned this property the longest. I've owned it for 16 years. It was my first house. And when I bought it, in my head, I was like, I'm going to buy it. And if I can just have the tenants pay the mortgage, I'm going to bank on the appreciation. And everybody would be like, you're crazy. You have to focus on cash flow. In 16 years, I probably had less than 10 phone calls about that property. And now if last summer I was getting offers on it and I could have walked away with $800,000. So I look at, all right, so I picked up $800,000 in equity by pretty much doing nothing. Did I have a tremendous amount of cash flow over the years? No. But I also now have a place at the beach that I turned one of the units into an Airbnb, and now I am cash flowing. But at the time in my life, I was like, I'm going to hold that one. There's other ones where if I buy certain investments and we have kind of like a dodgy spot in town. And if I'm going to take the risk to buy there, the cash flow better be significant.
And significant is $300, $500.
Like if I pick up a duplex, and these are small numbers, like I'll give you an example. I walked into one, this is back probably a year and a half ago. It was an older gentleman. He didn't want to list because of COVID. He was very scared. He said, if you can get me my number, I want $140,000. And at the time, if I was going to list that, I probably would have listed it for like $215,000, $220,000. So immediately I know there's equity there in the condition that it's in. And I'm telling him, like, you will get a lot more money if you list this house. And he's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want people in my home. I just want my money. I want to move on. So we bought that. And then we were like, oh, do we want to flip it? And when we looked, I think that one's pulling close to like $1,200 a month. And it's not hard. So why wouldn't we pick it up?
And so, man, that's awesome. So basically you can look at deals different ways. What I'm hearing is pretty cool. Some people just have a higher level of risk, right? Like that they're able to or willing to take. Like you're saying, a lot of people say, oh, that's a terrible idea, but were willing to take that risk and made 800 racks over the course of 16 years with very little input, right? And so like that's super powerful.
My tolerance for risk is through the roof. That's what people tell me. They're like, you're crazy. But where I always go is, what is the worst possible thing that happens here? Right. So if I buy it, and that's what, like, even with that place, I'm like, if I buy this and I don't want to keep it, can I get out of it or can I rent it? So if I'm okay with the worst possible outcome that I can think of, like I didn't throw in like the global pandemic and all that. But in a normal world, if I'm okay with that, then I'm going to go for it.
Gotcha. So you basically have a best case, a worst case. And if you're comfortable with the worst case and the other things check the box, you'd be willing to make it happen regardless. And so did you acquire the 130 units with those partnerships from 2017 to now? So in 5 years, that's how it's grown?
Yes.
Holy smokes. That's
I talked to Meg about that yesterday.
25 units a year.
The answer is yes, because she doesn't like her.
Ooh, I'm like, who's
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, somebody
So let me.
has a question. Cinderella.
Are you serious? Wait, hold on. Make sure.
I think that's Dan. Thanks, Dan. No worries.
Sorry, everybody.
What's up, Dan?
Oh.
Who don't we like?
And so a question I had on a follow-up, and this is super cool because I'm going off script a little because I'm super interested in getting to know like how.
I'm terrible at scripts. It's not you, it's me.
No. So you mentioned partnerships, right? So it's not like you just went, I mean, you did go the solo route, you built it up yourself until you were forced to get leverage. But I heard like over the course of acquiring the 130 units, like you have multiple different partnerships. You have the original money guy. Now you have hard money lenders. You own some of them by yourself, but then you said your director of operations is a partner on some of them. Like,
You want to hear the whole deal?
yeah, there's a book called Who Not How. I think it's powerful. I think that there's power in people. And so like, as you've gone through these different partnerships, what are you looking for in those people that you're partnering with? Because you are a mother, you do have 2 kids, right? This is real money that affects your family. And so, you know, I think those relationships, money sometimes changes things. So you've been able to find people you know, like, and trust that and move forward with. Can you elaborate on how you kind of discovered your people?
I am so glad we're going here because this is something I become wildly passionate about. So when I started my journey, I think we pulled our operating agreement off of Google and just changed a few things because that was required to get the mortgage when we were going to refinance it. I was the most whatever person, like no big deal. I didn't care because it wasn't my money, right? Like it was my time and my equity. But at that time, I was just like, what's the risk? Okay, let's go. And once I got out of that partnership, and it was a great breakup, like I was like, what's fair? What do you want? He made me an incredible deal because he's like, Janelle, I've made a ton of money from this and you did all the work. Awesome. We are still very good friends to this day. If I'm in a jam, I can call him. He helps me out. I then went and had a different partner who was a very, very good friend of mine. And he lives in a different part of the state. And he was like, I find deals all the time. And I'm like, well, why would you not pick them up? What are you doing? And he had a sales team. He's like, well, what? I don't have an endless bag of money, do you? And he couldn't fathom that there's people out there that would lend you money based on your track record and the property. So I'm like, you find the deal, we'll partner. And same thing, pulled the operating agreement off of Google. We're off and running. We're buying one, we're buying two. I think we got up to like somewhere around 15 units. And he came to me and he figured it out. And he said, if you could sell everything tomorrow, would you? And I'm like, yeah, it's not my area. It's like 2 hours away. Don't care. Did it for the money. And then he wanted to buy all the properties for me. We had the most contentious breakup I've had to date. We are no longer friends. There was like, if I go back and look at the money, things weren't done properly, but it's because part of it, I own it. I'm like, I didn't put proper expectations in place. When I started asking questions, he wasn't prepared to give me the answers because he thought it was more of like a whatever thing, right? So then I'm gun shy. Then I don't want any partners. But my situation changed. So Crystal's my director of operations. Well, she was on my sales team and we have a lot of businesses together. I am great at, and what I've learned is I'm great at finding the deals, but due diligence is not my strong suit. Following up, getting things done, staying on contractors, not my strong suit. So I partnered with Crystal and was like, hey, I'm going to find a deal and I'm going to find the money. I don't ever want to hear about it again. So we work really well. So I think then the next one that I bought was I bought a burnt down shell, a 45 unit burnt down shell.
Wow.
Right. Wow. By myself. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And after I closed on that, I'm like, well, this is a little out of my scope. Right. So I ended up partnering with this. This was a mailer lead, somebody who got a letter from me about selling his property. We formed a kind of business relationship. And then I went to him and was like, hey, you own a contracting business. Would you be able to handle this? And we ended up partnering. And right now we're breaking up, but just because he's like, dude, I built it to sell it. I don't want to be in it. If you want it, let's work it out. Our operating agreement is 28 pages long. It was reviewed by my attorney and his attorney because the numbers went from small numbers and us all, messing around to this is a $10 million project and this is my kid's legacy and it's not. So everything is spelled out in there. And we went into it where we were friendly-ish, but we weren't friends. We were business partners. So I was like, what happens if you get divorced? What happens if you die? What happens if you want to sell and I don't? Who's managing? And I went through every scenario that I had learned to look for due to my other partnerships.
Wow. So you went through the full gambit.
I have. And right now people have approached me and been like, hey, I want to partner with you. And I'm like, I don't know what value I can bring to you. Because at this point, I don't really need partners unless there's a value that they're going to provide to me or vice versa, because then there's going to be contention. If I'm taking half the money or a portion of the money, even like I better be bringing value to you. Otherwise you're going to be pissed. Mm-hmm. It's human nature. So I am very, very gun shy on partnering with people as of late and moving forward. And I have really good partners. Like Crystal is an incredible partner for me. I have another agent on my team where we have a little group and that's a really good partnership. But beyond that, I would have to have a need for it. And I don't know what that need would be.
Well, you went through the dang partner gambit of, full partnership to, partial partnerships. And so who tracks all this stuff? You have 130 properties. All of them are owned differently. Like, how do you manage that? Is that your director of operations, or?
So yes and no. So initially it was me. And then I went to my director of operations and I was like, this is not good. And I need your help. And I just gave her a pile of shit. Like, I don't know who's paid up on rents. I don't know where the leases are. Like, whatever you're thinking, it was not good. I'm like, this whole thing really snowballed. And the whole time I'm selling houses and I'm busy doing that. And that's where my passion lied at the time. This was like kind of like a side funding. So then I hired a property management company. I don't know if this is like across the board, but around here, they were horrendous. So then I was like, I'm really sorry, but let's take a look at this, right? If our intention is to keep going and build a portfolio in this area, wouldn't it make sense that we start a property management company? So Crystal, my director of operations on my sales team, and I partnered to start the property management company. So she hired people to manage the property. She runs the property management company. And then all of our properties are managed by that company, but then we in turn manage other people's investments as well.
Gotcha. So you're growing it through other people's, but it's a home for yours as well. So
Right.
kind of like, yeah, cool. So we do have a question in the chat. And so Dan Chin has asked, like, you have all these agreements, you pulled operating agreements different ways. It looks like specifically for agents on your team or somebody on your team, like what kind of agreement in writing do you have with them? How are you partnering with them?
So there's different agreements for different things. I have contracts, and I'll share anything with anybody too. I'm an open book. So I will give you, because when I started my sales team, I didn't have contracts. I'm like, no, he's so cool, whatever. Yeah, he's so sweet. I can't deal with all these buyers here. Until somebody left and took my leads. And then I'm like, well, that was dumb. Right. So now I have contracts with my agents on my team. And then I have operating agreements for any other business that I'm in. So I have an operating agreement at the title company. Crystal and I have operating agreements for our business. I have an operating agreement for different partnerships. So when I was rebuilding the 45 unit, operating agreement with that partner, operating agreements for other partnerships as well.
Interesting. And are those like, oh, go ahead. Does somebody
I said follow-up question. And so in that, does it say like what happens if someone wants to exit the agreement
So
and how things get split up and everything?
yes, and that's what I tell people is like, it's weird. It's almost like prenup-y. Like if you're going into business with somebody, you don't want to be like, oh, like what happens if this doesn't go well? But that's where I immediately go now. Like, I'm like, all right, like I like you so much, right? We are so vibing right now. We're going to crush it, but let's just lay out. And like, I was very clear on, and I used the 45 unit I built because I feel like that was my best job that I've done, because I reserved the right to decide if we were going to sell or not, because it was my deal and I brought it to the table. My partner wanted to sell. And if I told everybody the numbers, like almost everybody was like, I cannot believe you didn't sell that building. But for me, I can see that building from my backyard and I'm going to live where I live forever. I bought the house I grew up in. I'm a weirdo. But I'm like, I didn't build that building for the money. I bought it because in 25 years, when it's paid for, it's going to be a $20 million asset for its generational wealth. So I understand I could have done like a quick cash grab, but in my operating agreement, I reserve the right to decide. So if I would not have done that, it would have been a complete shit show.
Gotcha.
So I would just say like, yeah, what happened? And like life happens too. People change. And as you grow, things change. So I would always just be like, hey, like, what if we don't want to be partners anymore? What if I want to move to Europe and not have to deal with it? You know what I mean? So I feel like if you can set those expectations up front, because the second my partner told me he didn't want in, I pulled out our operating agreement and I'm like, what rights does he have? And then everybody's on the same page and it's not happening during the contention.
No,
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
thanks for that question, Dan. I think that's powerful. I think similar experience that, being heavy in relationships, everything's kosher until it's not, right? And so like a lot of things are like, oh, old traditions, like I'm a man of my word, or we shook on it. I mean, once you get into like bigger deals or corporate side, like everything's in agreements. And I think Gary Keller had said one time at a training I went to, but like you know, agreements are made for disagreements. Like they're not made for you to be like, that's what you need to be vetting is all the potential opportunities for you guys to exit the agreements and making sure you have clear expectations for it. So that's super powerful that that's kind of where you're landing now. Like you understand the value of that.
Well, and I think people genuinely see things differently as well. Like my partner, where I had the bad breakup, he thought because he did all the work that I wasn't entitled to any equity. And it's like he genuinely felt that way, but I genuinely felt that I did because we were partners. So it's like, I feel like if everybody knows what the end is from the beginning, it goes a lot better.
Gotcha. And are all these like different LLCs with operating agreements is what you're saying? So you're creating multiple, and then I've heard different strategies like an LLC for each property, an LLC based on equity position or in that LLC. Like, do you have something that you abide by, or is it kind of just as you go?
I do, but it's like I say I have like different buckets. So I have buildings, like I own 2 doors down from me, I own a 7-unit. That is a legacy building. That is for my kids. That is in my kids' names. It's their middle names, LLC. And that is, I'm holding those. That right now is the only property in that LLC. Would I add another 1 or 2? Sure. If I know I'm going to hold those and it's all within the same bucket. But then I get a little sketchy with liability as well. And somebody who was way smarter than me once told me, like, once you get to like $1 million in property value, start a different LLC. So I have my 24 unit that the value of that's probably around 2 million. That's in its own LLC. We get letters all the time, like somebody fell, they're gonna sue me. Like, so for me, that's one bucket, right? So that's how I do it. I don't know if that's, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney.
I mean, you kind of gave a generic like understanding. I think a lot of people have their own ways of doing it. I've heard people do it on property value. I've heard people say, you know, once you get a certain amount of equity position, like, so if you don't have that much equity, you can put more properties in there. Like, so, I mean, I like that you had like, oh, this is my legacy one. Like, I know I'm holding these, this is separate. Anything that's $1 million over, that's going to be separate. And then you might have more depending on the property values and other ones. So that's pretty cool. Well, you've had a heck of a journey in 5 years growing your investment side while still running a real estate team, while handling life things and raising 2 kids. And so, essentially you've been crushing it. And so what would you say are like the 3 things that you think have contributed most to your ability to have this success?
I am told I'm really, really good at leverage. So a lot of people like hire people, but then micromanage them. I could not be more opposite than that. And that gets me in trouble. Because if I put it in your very capable hands, I'm never going to think about it again. I'm not going to check that it was done or even done. Like, I'm trusting you to do that. But I have leveraged at work, and then I also leveraged at home. Like, once I knew I was getting divorced, I'm like, dude, I haven't done laundry in 7 years. I had the laundry lady and was getting my groceries delivered before it was trendy, because I would be like, all right, I'm going to take 2 kids to the grocery store and then spend, what's that whole round trip? 2 hours, 2.5, right? Now I was getting my groceries delivered when the lady was here doing the laundry on Mondays, and like that saved me X amount of time. So I did that personally, and then financially too. I leveraged everything I could financially, and then even with my businesses, where another thing that I would say, so that's number 1, leverage. Number 2 is I am very self-aware of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And like, I'm 41, I'm not going to try to get better at like, I'm not going to get more organized. I need a person, right? Like my commercial lender like calls me. He's like, you didn't pay your mortgage on your one property. I'm like, well, did you set it up on auto pay? I'm like, dude, that's on you. That's not on me. Like, you should know me by now. I can't possibly remember to do this. So I would say that that's another huge one. Instead of focusing and like trying to get better on my weaknesses, I just find other people who that's their strength. Is my weakness, and I partner with them. And then, all right, you said 3, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing is like, I'm always out there like meeting people, especially like COVID kind of put a damper on that, but I will go network and talk to anybody. And if I could tell you story after story about how this one cold call changed my entire life, or I went and sold this little shitty $60,000 house that nobody else wanted to deal with. And I, from that, generated $1 million in revenue from meeting people because of that. So I just feel like all activity breeds activity, and people are more geared to going after like the higher price points or the easier stuff. But I've had a lot of success from doing the hard things and meeting the right people. Is that good? Is that a good answer?
That was a great answer. So you said networking, leverage, and what was the first one? I missed it.
And then I think the other one is knowing what you're good at and doing it.
Self-awareness. So that's
Yeah.
powerful. Like I think I'm reading the book Good to Great, and I think in the book right now it's talking about creating a to-do list, but also just as important as a not to-do list, like knowing what not to do, because I think that's powerful, the self-awareness to know. People are always like, oh, work on your weaknesses. Well, leverage out your weaknesses to somebody who's strong at it, and then focus on your strengths might give a better result. And the results you've been obviously creating have been massive for you. So that's super powerful. I would want to hone in on the leverage side. People would say I'm kind of like that too, right? Like I can get into something and then I find the people that can do it better. Has there ever been like a big time that burned you, or like one that you would like, that's the best piece of leverage I've ever had in this type of person?
Oh, dude, Crystal's been my biggest leverage ever. I met her. She worked at the market center that I worked at, and people said, oh, you should talk to Crystal. And we could not be more opposite personalities, like very serious, very numbery. I always joke, I'm like, I was rolling in after the gym and she was wearing pantyhose to work. And I'm like, you want me to partner with that girl? But our values and our vision aligned. So where that wasn't, we're always in alignment there. So it was her strengths compensated for my weaknesses, and vice versa. Like I'll go, if we go to like family reunion or something, she will be exhausted where she's like, we just talked to people. That was a lot of talking. I'm like, let's go. Right. Like that for her, that's like hell. And for me, that's amazing. And vice versa. She'll go sit and do all the book work for 12 hours. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do that.
Hey, yin and yang. There's great opportunity in finding the right people to surround yourself with. I love that. And so that was a crazy, amazing success, right? Finding the leverage in a person that you created a relationship, opposite type of personality, but opposites tend to attract. Is there like a favorite like failure of yours that has set you up for success? Like, yeah, that sucked, but this made me better, and this is why.
I would say one of my biggest whoopsies was when I was young. Before I had my license, I built a house in Costa Rica. I know, right? I would go down there all the time, and I was like, dude, they're building. And this is probably like 05, 06, where I'm like, we could get a killer house by the beach. I didn't know that Costa Rica's economy mirrored ours. So as we were experiencing the housing crisis, they were a little bit behind us. It turns out builders were running a Ponzi scheme. The whole community, it was a nightmare. If I took you through the whole thing, it was the most stressed I'd ever been in my entire life. I got my brothers involved in it, a family friend involved in it. The builders took off with our money. We held that house for, I think, 11 years and each lost a little bit. And I had to manage the Airbnb because it was 100% my fault. And my takeaways from that is I'm still like, oh, I never do anything internationally. I'm like, ugh. It's just a different set of rules. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't do the best on diligence there. So that's like my biggest, oh man, that was a rough one, but I got out semi unscathed. And then the other thing I would say is my really bad breakup with the partnership. Just be really careful of who you're getting into business with, especially like, I can't stress enough, like people change and things change.
And so those experiences, like, what do you think are your strengths from learning from those, right? Obviously, just going through the whole Costa Rica thing, you probably learned a shit ton that you didn't know before.
Yeah, don't do that. Just more like, I think my contract, like the best ever was I ended up selling my house in Costa Rica in like 2017 or 2018, somewhere around. It was a 1-page contract. So my contract with the builders was like 2 paragraphs. Like, so don't do that. And just with, I'd say the partnership, like it made me so much smarter. And now I go in like eyes wide open. And it's not I've learned to take like the emotional side out of it, because I'm a people pleaser and I like people and all that, right? But like me and you, if we were going to go into business, I'm like, so let's talk about if it doesn't go well. Where before I'd be like, oh, well, I don't want to think like that, right? Like, what's not going to go well? We've been friends for years. Like, this is going to be amazing. And now I'm like, let's just say, so I always go in with, let's figure out what the end is before we start.
Cool. Well, if you're making me an offer to partner, I'll definitely entertain that. And
Yeah. I'm like, what value? What can we do?
We can talk off camera. We can figure it out. And so we are about halfway through, a little bit over. So I just wanted to do some more housekeeping items, but we are here today, guys, with Janel Loughin, not Loughin. That's what I thought it was initially, Loughin, right? Amazing real estate professional, both on the retail side and investment side, multiple companies, 130 unit investment portfolio, settlement company, launching potential mortgage company and property management. So has a whole bunch of stuff, sharing tons of great ideas and experiences. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat or post them in the Facebook group. We're ready, willing, and able to answer any and all questions. So we'll be standing by for that. With that being said, I'm gonna continue on. It has been.
Dude, you're doing great with your hosting.
You like that? This is only my second time too. Cinderella gave me a C last time, so I'm trying to get an A today.
Oh, I feel like you're doing well. You got a good voice. You're projecting.
I can't wait to see you in person. And so let's talk about, we've talked about a lot of serious stuff: partnerships, hardest lessons, greatest successes, leverage, self-awareness. Like, you've shared a ton and you've been open and transparent. I think that's the best thing that we can do and to learn from. So let's just take a quick minute. What is like an unusual habit or absurd thing that you absolutely love?
Dude, I don't know.
If you do all this other stuff, you got something crazy about you. There's got to be something.
You know what's weird about me? That everybody like busts my balls about. I drive a 2013 minivan and I love it. Is that weird?
You are frugal. You don't just make the money, you save the money.
I save the money and then I buy investments with it. But that's something weird about me. I think another thing that's super weird about me, where it's hard for me to find, dude, I love business. I love being with my kids too. Like, I see a lot of, like, I know a lot of moms who work and they work endlessly. And I'm like, I can't do that, man. Like, I'm home and my kids get off the bus at 3:22 and I am off and I'm with my kids. And I feel like that makes me a weirdo, given how much I love the business and running with all that too.
Well, I think it's super cool. We get to a point where I think, comparison is a thief of joy. And some people may look at your life and you saying that and saying like, oh, wow, she can own all these properties, run a retail team, and she spends all the time. Like, I want that. And they should. I think that is a great goal to have. The fact that you have that time blocked or that you dedicate that space to your family, super important. And yet I also don't want everybody to like forget like the work you had to put in to earn that opportunity to create this life that you created. And
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, between 2014 when you got in, all the life experiences you had, I'm sure there were long nights, sleepless nights, tough nights, ups and downs. And so, I think it is a testament to you and the life you created that you're here now, strong, passionate, transparent, mother of two, like just fucking sorry, Cinderella, freaking crushing life. And like, not only are you dedicated to your businesses, but you're dedicated to your family. That goes a long way. But you put in real work to earn that opportunity. And so,
and I tell people it's work, but I call it an investment too. Like, I remember taking my kids like to daycare when they were like 2 and 3 years old, and they were in like daycare 2 days a week and with the nanny 2 days a week. And people are like, don't you want to be home with them? And I'm like, dude, of course I do. But I'm like, I had my eye on the prize, where I was like, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And by the time my daughter was in kindergarten, I was going to be home or have the ability to be home. Like today, my daughter's sick. I mean, it sucks. I got to juggle some things, but it's not the end of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And I told them, I'm like, dude, I'm going to put you guys in daycare. I hope I'm doing the right thing. And I'm going to invest my time then so I can have my time later. And like, I talked to my girls. I'm like, dude, I made some hard choices. And like, I don't regret that, because now I don't miss anything. I chaperone the field trips and do the swim meets, and I'm at everything.
Oh, you're the room mom. You got the
Oh,
room
yeah.
mom of the year. Huh?
But I gave my time up then to have my time now. And I used the time that I gave up. Like I worked, and that's what I tell people. Like I didn't just I worked endlessly to set myself up to be here.
No, that's powerful. Congratulations to you. You definitely have earned every second of it.
Thank you.
Sometimes I have 3 kids under 5, and I got one on the way in April. My mom growing up, you know, she had 4 kids as well. And I remember growing up and thinking like she was working, and it's nothing. My mom did the best with the tools and the resources she had at the time that she had us. But I cannot believe, you know, like I've tried to retire my mom and tell her to move out here. I joke her all the time and tell her my kids don't remember her name to try to guilt trip her into coming. But I remember one time like, Mom, I'll pay for you. I got houses out here. Like you can live, like I'll pay you money just to hang out with your grandkids. Like, let's talk about it. And I remember she was like, oh, babe, I don't think you can afford me. Not in a negative way, but she's been at this job for 20 years. And I've never asked my mom about money or her love interest. That's not my responsibility. That's her happiness is all I care about. So as long as she's happy, I'm good. But she sent me a resume like a year later. I'm like, Mom, are you actually interested in coming out? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, cool, what I got to pay? Because I'll pay whatever. You're my mom. And I remember she was like $60K in benefits. And that like hurt my heart because I had made a 6-figure. I made more than she made in 1 month, you know, like in my 3rd year in real estate at a point. And it was just like, man, she worked so hard for 20 something years. And like for her to think that this was like so significant, like $60,000. And she was raising 4 children, you know, working jobs. And so it's powerful for you to like put in that effort so that you can have that time. And so, you know, my mom did what she did so that I can do what I'm doing now and hopefully trying to have the same impact as you. So I thank you for sharing that. So as we look at other people, right, like your journey has been your journey and you're crushing it. What advice would you give, you know, shifting market, you know, the news is loud. There's a lot of noise out there, right? The real estate industry will decrease by 30%. Like there's 1 million less realtors already, blah, 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 blah. And so what advice would you give a smart driven new angel or investor that wants to enter the real world, like into the real estate industry now?
So I've never been through a shift. Pretty much if you look at like 2014 till now, it's just been like whoop, right? But my advice to people, like there are still deals out there and you just have like, and you're pretty lucky if you're entering right now because you don't know any different, right? Everybody else who's gotten into it the last couple of years, I'm sorry, we're spoiled. Like we've had it really, really, really good. I don't care what anybody says. And some people capitalized on that, right? It was easy. Like it was easy and I took advantage of that and I ran. Now I am lead generating like I haven't had to do probably seriously since like 2015 or 16. I'm on the phone, I'm talking to people and people are like, oh yeah, are you slow? And I was talking to an attorney this morning. I said, there's less transactions and it's more inconvenient, but it's not even hard. It's not hard. We have to work harder if we want to make the same amount of money. So my advice, if you're just getting it now, you don't know any different. Find somebody with really great habits who has been through a shift and do what they're doing. But like we're commission-based like salespeople, like go get it. Like it's out there. It's just might be a little bit harder to find because we've been really, 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 really lucky.
And so you mentioned this, like you found all these deals. Did you launch an investment arm of your company or are you just actively finding the deals on your own? And if so, what is your lead source? Are you doing mailers? Are you just searching? Like, what does that look like?
Everything to answer your question. So we do mailers and our pitch was, I don't know if we're still doing mailers. I should look into that. But for a long time, we were doing mailers that was like, hey, if you want to sell, we have a solution. If you want to rent your property out, we have a solution. We have a property management company. So that was kind of our go-to. But no, I aspire to have an investment leg where that's all we're doing. Because of course, then I look at the wholesalers that I know and they're crushing it. But I'm not there currently.
Okay, no, I mean, you clearly know how to identify deals. So I was just interested in the research. So you had more of like a golden letter approach, like in terms of your mailer. Like were you targeting
crushed it with golden letters, crushed it.
So were you targeting like your listings or were you just identifying neighborhoods with, turn rates? Like, what was that like?
We've tried different things, and admittedly, I don't know what we're doing right now, so I got to look at that. But we've tried like absentee owners, but investment properties, high equity owners. We've done all that. I feel like over the last couple of years, it got super saturated, and then we were so busy with the real estate, like the retail side, that's where my energy was going. And occasionally, if I walk in and I see a deal, then I'm going to go for the deal.
Gotcha. So you're doing all this investment stuff, launching these companies. Your retail team, you said, also did 170 plus units for 60 something million. Can you give a generic org chart? Like, what's your world look like on the retail side? How big is it?
It ebbs and flows. So retail side, we have a transaction coordinator. We had Crystal as our director of operations. She's kind of like, it's me and her. I run the sales stuff. She runs the operations side. Our transaction coordinator is amazing. We have our director of sales. She's in charge of recruiting and then helping the new agents. And then I got like my core 5 or 6 really great agents that have been with me for a long time they don't need any guidance. They got this, they run. And then we bring in and exit, probably like 3 to 4 agents a month. And then everybody's all excited, right? They're going to do this and they're going to do that. And then we have our standards for your first 100 days. And we're checking in. And if you can't do the things that are expected of you, then this isn't the spot for you.
Gotcha.
Then as we were bringing them in, we were turning them out just as fast.
So you have your director of ops, a TC or admin. You're pretty much in production and still an agent, right? Or direct, and then you have a director.
Yeah, I got out of production. I was pretty much out of production the last 2 years while I was picking up investments, while we were building these other companies, while we were doing the 45 unit. Like I said to Crystal earlier, at the end of the year, I'm like, dude, I can't believe our production went down for the first time ever. Like we went down 20 units and $16 million from the year before. And I was like beating myself up. And then I'm like, you know what? I was out of production. We built a 45 unit building like on the side in conjunction with, we opened our own brokerage. We did a property management. So I'm like, I think it's okay. And then 2, like we both take time. Like I don't work on the weekends. I take vacations with my kids. So I'm like, for the trade-off, I'm like, all right, I'm okay with it.
I would be okay with that too. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have a runner. He's amazing. We have a showing agent. He's amazing. We have and then I have I don't want to forget our director of lead gen who runs our ISA department. That became huge for me over the last year and a half as well.
So you actually have an ISA department. Are they all virtual or they're in person?
No, they're in person in the office. And if you're not in the office, then you're not working. And I tried to do the remote thing, but then it's like human nature. Like, are you really making your calls and doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Gotcha.
I never thought I needed ISAs. I have an incredible coach, an incredible MAPS coach. And for years, he's like, get some ISAs. I'm like, I don't need them. We do so great. Everything's referral based. Look at our business. And our ISA team accounted for 35% of my business last year.
Wow.
I know.
Have to hit you up and discuss, potential ISA. That is, they talk about going from lead based to appointment based, which is the ISA, right? Like appointments instead of just leads. We were heavy referral too. So it'd be interesting. I'd love to, explore what that looked like for you and some of your transition with that, especially with expenses, like, and how to keep that lean. And so we got 10 minutes left. And so I'm gonna ask a couple of spitfire questions that are pretty quick, and then I'll open it up for any potential opportunities and questions. But Janel, it has been such a pleasure getting to know you. So I'm sad that this is wrapping up, but I have a feeling I'll be reaching out to you.
I'm gonna talk to you later. Call me later.
So let's go. What purchase of $100 or less, and it can't be your minivan, has positively impacted your life in the last year or so? $100 or less, like something that's really impacted you. The water bottle?
Dude, I love my jug. And it's not the last year or less, right? This is a gallon and it is a conversation starter. I got it branded. We put like my logo on it. So when I meet people and they're like, you really drink all that? And then I end up talking to them. If I get their information or whatever, I'll send them one and be like, dude, you can do it too. But I drink my jug usually every day by like 3 p.m. I'm done my gallon. And this has like helped me tremendously.
No, that's powerful. Health is wealth, right? A lot of people get lost in that. I'm on my own journey with that. I actually was a Navy basketball player in college and in the Navy. Once we started having all these kids, I've kind of not lost it. I'm big boned. I'm Hawaiian and Samoan, so I'm a naturally big dude. But I saw a podcast and they discuss like relationships, job, health, and they're like, you know, if you lost a relationship, you know, everything else will potentially stay the same. You can make it work. You know, if you lost your job, everything, but if you lost your health, like that's it. And so it hit me. And so like I've been on a journey to try to, you know, increase water intake, exercise, all that good stuff. And so looking at you with your gallon water jug, way to set the example.
Dude, I'm doing 75 hard. I told you. And that everybody bitches about the water. I'm like, that's the easiest thing on that list.
Okay, I have a confession.
What?
I had tried 75 hard 75 times and I keep failing it.
You're not committed then.
But the one thing I committed to was I haven't had a drink since June 5th, because that's the only thing that you're just required not to do something. Everything else, you have to go work out. You have to go take a picture. This is just don't drink. And so I don't know when I'm gonna stop, but that's the only thing I'm winning at. So I'm gonna use it as my win. Is that okay?
Do you feel like super brilliant?
You know, somebody asked me that. I don't know. I feel like I'm smarter. I'm more self-aware because, you know, the day after drinking or all that stuff, it's never, you know, the positive thing. Like you're sluggish or even more sluggish than you typically are. And so it has definitely allowed me to be more in tune with like getting shit done. Like I just think I was already a doer, but it has allowed me to be more of that. And so I'm excited to hear this one. And then I'll wrap this up. If you had a gigantic billboard or a famous quote and we were able to put it on, and this is like represents you,
Ooh.
what would you put on that billboard?
Probably why not you?
Elaborate. I'd love for you to.
I always like when I got rocking and rolling and doing everything, I'd see people are like, how'd you do what you did? I'm like, dude, I saw other people who were no better than me in any way. So I'm like, why can't I do what they're doing? Right. But I got another big thing with my girls where like, they're not allowed to say can't. Cause they're like, I can't do that. And I'm like, oh, you can, you just have to figure out how, right? You might have to do it differently. But I try to tell them like, why not you? If you want something, if I firmly believe in this world that like we're in right now and where we're headed, if you're willing to work for something, the chances of you getting it are going to be very high because nobody wants to work anymore.
Why not you?
Why not? Right?
You gotta get that branded with t-shirts and hats. I'll buy one from you, FYI.
Why not you? When I was buying like the burnt down out shell, and my mother is like the exact opposite of me too. She's a nervous wreck. She's like, what are you doing? Do you know how to do that? But I'm like, no, but we live in the information age. I'm like, why not me? Somebody else is going to buy it and rebuild it. Why can't I do it?
I love that. I love that. So Janel Loughin, everybody, out of the suburbs of Philly. I've absolutely loved getting to know you. I do want to give a minute or two. If you're in the chat or if you're in the Facebook metaverse and you have any questions, please drop the question in the comments or drop the question in the chat. Janel Loughin from Philly, huge retail team, over 60 million in volume year over year, huge investment portfolio, 130 units plus. I mean, an amazing mom, right? Spends time with her family, multiple ancillary businesses from settlement companies to mortgage to property management, an expert in partnerships, 20 different ways, whether it's, you know, hard money lenders or, you know, specialty and operating agreements. She has said she'd be willing to share some of those things. And so what do they say? A smart man, you know, learns from the mistakes of others or something. A wise man does something else, but basically we can learn from her is what I'm trying to say. And so if she's made all those mistakes for us, why not take advantage? I know I will. And if there aren't any questions, Cinderella, thumbs up. Any questions? Thumbs down? No questions, because that was probably the most amazing thing that we've had today. And so I'm super excited to say thank you, Janel. It was a pleasure.
So welcome. Thank you for having me. Call me. Be in touch.
I will, and I hope to see you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Woo! That lady's high talent. People out here.
It was really good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I need to figure out how to get on her calendar.